What up, Matt from Surplus Trader Secrets on a Friday. Whew, what a week it's been. Very hectic. So many stock offers around. Lots and lots of deals being offered around at the moment. And yeah, very, very spoilt. But what I want to talk about today is there's a lot of opportunity, guys, in the surplus inventory business, and a lot of people just have on their minds all the time, looking for retail products. And retail, obviously the biggest market in our business is retailable products, stuff that you'll find in the shops, in department stores, on the high street, in shopping malls. And yes, of course, there's lots of that type of inventory to go out and find. However, if you look on the other side of the coin, there's a lot of industries where you can be finding cheap surplus inventory and actually make money with that type of inventory. Excuse me. And when I say like non-retail inventory, I mean it's stuff that companies manufacture and sell that aren't a retail type of product. It's not a retail product that you'd find in the supermarket or retail shops. And if you think about it, look, if you think about the amount of industries, huge industries in the world today that are dealing in products that are not specifically retail products, okay? And I actually get involved in a lot of this type of inventory, and there are buyers and there are contacts and buyers out there that are looking for that type of inventory. And a lot of these buyers are very, they are in that specific industry. They are very niched down into a specific industry. So I'm going to give you some examples of what I'm talking about. So a lot of you are probably scratching your heads at the minute thinking, I can't, what's he on about? So I'm going to give you some industries where you can find surplus inventory. And, I'll give you a few little tips on how you can actually find that inventory and actually find someone who will buy that type of inventory from you. And it's not as difficult as it seems, actually. If you just look at industries that aren't retail products, there is a lot of them around. So like the first one, like the auto industry. The auto industry, it's massive. Okay, there's a lot of cars and vehicles on the road. There's a lot of companies making auto cars or making motor cars, lorries, any type of vehicle. So the auto industry, obviously, there's a lot of parts and components that are used in the auto industry. And a lot of auto parts, you can imagine like a car is made up of lots of different parts and components, ranging from, all the metal parts, all the plastic parts, even down to the seating, this fabric, the fabric, leather fabric or non-leather fabric on the seating. But, every single thing, every single part and component has come from somewhere. So there's companies making these kind of parts and components for the auto industry. And there is money to be made in that specific industry. There are people that specialize in buying and selling surplus inventory of auto parts, specific to, whatever car model that is. So there's a lot of parts and components in a car, and there's a lot of companies out there that are manufacturing auto parts or importing auto parts. You know, various types of auto parts across different types of cars. And, you know, I've done deals where I found, damn. Hello. Hello. I'll ring you back in a minute. I'm just on the other line. Ring you back. Sorry about that. That was just one of my colleagues that I do business with. So yeah, so the auto parts industry, huge industry. Go out there and look for auto parts manufacturers, auto parts importers, auto parts distributors. You know, one of my students, Jacob from Poland, the very first deal he did was a surplus inventory of some auto parts, water pumps. They were just there was literally about 30,000 water pumps that were produced for cars. And, you know, in Poland, he found them. And I helped him find a buyer for that inventory. We sold them to a buyer in France, and he made 2,000. He made 2,000 euros from that deal, like that. So this is what I'm talking about. That's a non-retail product. That is a part or component used in the manufacturing process. Another industry, chemicals. So the chemicals industry is massive. It's like, if you think of any industry, there's always chemicals involved in that specific industry. So, you know, there's companies making chemicals for the food and drink industry. There's companies making chemicals for the cosmetics industry. There's chemicals for the, you know, auto industry. There's chemicals for so many different industries. And there's a lot of chemical companies, manufacturers or importers. You know, there might be a manufacturer in one country, but they have distributors in other countries. So you're probably noticing, like, what I'm talking about now. We're going back in the supply chain, is what I call it. It's like things that are used in manufacturing. So parts, components, materials. So if you go out into a shop or anywhere, look, you know, just look at any product, everything is made of something. Everything is made up of something. So it's all made up of things, parts, components, materials, or whatever. And, you know, there are buyers of surplus stocks of those parts, components, materials, etc. So like auto parts, you know, a part is something that's used in the car manufacturing process, but, you know, people buy parts. There are companies that sell like parts, car parts, you know, to companies that like after service. It's like that after service industry where, you know, people have bought cars, but, you know, these garages need new parts for cars. So, you know, there's always an industry for car parts. You can go out and find, you know, big stocks of surplus car parts. Last week, I was offered a truckload of surplus exhausts for cars, surplus exhausts for different models of cars, brand new, and which I'm working on at the moment. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. So, you know, auto parts, the chemicals industry. It might sound like you might be thinking, oh, how can I deal in chemicals? Well, you know, I don't know anything about chemicals, but I actually do deals on buying and selling bulk surplus chemicals. And what I do is, and this is what I teach, is actually finding people in that industry who specialize in that industry, and they have contacts in that industry. So what you're actually doing is you're getting offered something that you're not specifically an expert on, but that doesn't matter. You can go out and find experts in that specific industry and get them to find a buyer for that type of inventory. And the way I do it is through LinkedIn a lot of the time. And on LinkedIn, if you're not already on there, you can actually join groups. And a lot of groups are very niche down into specific industries and product categories. So, for examples, like with the chemicals industry, there'll be groups of people on LinkedIn that are connected to the chemicals industry. And so, you know, you can get into these groups and, you know, put a post on there and say, look, is anyone in this group know about this type of product? I've been offered some. Can you find a buyer? We'll pay you a commission. Things like that. Okay, so, you know, there are ways of finding contacts who are experts in a specific industry that you might not know anything about, guys. So you don't need to worry about finding inventory, finding surplus inventory on things that you just don't have a clue about. It doesn't matter. As long as you can find that inventory, you will always find an expert in that field, in that industry, who can help you sell that inventory. Okay, there are ways to do that. Again, the textiles industry, huge. You know, every bit of clothing or furniture, you know, furniture, upholstery, certainly the clothing business, everything has been made from, you know, rolls of cloth, rolls of textiles. And so, you know, there's companies making rolls of fabric, and then that's used to make clothing with, or it might be used to make a furniture with, or curtains, or, you know, that industry is just massive. So instead of me looking for finished clothing products, I will go back in the supply chain and look for rolls of fabric, you know, rolls of fabric that are used to make clothing with, or to make something with in whatever industry. So I get offered a lot of fabric, you know, rolls of fabric. I do a lot of business with rolls of various types of fabric for various industries. It's not just necessarily clothing. Again, there's a big call for it. There's a lot of people in the industry looking for surplus inventory of rolls of fabric that can be used to make things with. So this is what I'm talking about. It's not a retail product. It's going back in the supply chain, and it's something that can be used to make something with. Okay. Again, I've just got a few examples here. Another massive industry, packaging, food packaging. I mean, it can be any kind of packaging, but like the food packaging industry, obviously the food industry is a huge industry. And, you know, you can walk around the supermarket and, you know, everything's in packaging. Lots of food packaging type stuff, plastic packaging. Again, that is going back in the supply chain. It's not a finished retail product. It's just the packaging that people use to pack things with, you know, pack food into it. So you can look for, you know, packaging that in any industry, any type of packaging. And there are people that will buy that type of packaging. So again, that's not retail. It's a part or component or material or whatever used in the manufacturing process. Again, it's a big stock lot of plastic packaging, but there's someone out there that will use that kind of packaging to pack something with and turn it into a finished retail product. Does that make sense, guys? So now you're getting some ideas on the type of stuff you can look for that's not retailable product. Again, this is some more packaging. I get offered a lot of this, cartons, cardboard boxes, lots of different sizes. And again, you know, every product you buy is originally in a carton, outer carton. So again, another huge industry, cardboard boxes. So yeah, there's lots of industries. So they're just a few that I mentioned: auto industry, chemicals industry, textiles, packaging. Another big industry, construction industry. You know, things that are used in construction. Could be wood, it could be bricks, it could be paints. You know, anything like that can be used in construction. So yeah, just thought I'd get that idea into your head, guys. You don't need to be looking for finished retail products all the time. It's good to do that, but there's another area of the surplus inventory industry that you can get into, which is non-retail stuff. You know, things that are used in manufacturing, parts, components. You know, go and look for that type of stuff, and you know, there are buyers for that type of surplus inventory that you find. There are people looking for that type of stock. There are people that specialize in surplus chemicals or surplus component, you know, electronic components, for example, is a big industry. And there are companies that are, all they do is buy and sell surplus inventory of electrical components. Same with auto parts. And fabric. So there's companies that are in the surplus inventory business, but they're very specialized. They're very specialized. So you can actually find this type of stock and sell to those type of companies, as well as what I mentioned before about groups that you can find on LinkedIn. So that is my tip for the week on opportunities are not just in retail inventory, okay? There's big money to be made in non-retail inventory. So guys, you know, look at different industries and contact companies that are in those types of industries. There's still money to be made in non-retailable products. So that is my tip for the week. I will catch you guys very soon. Have a good weekend.